All right, so I've got the same code here duplicated into two separate files. So on the left-hand side, I have the exact same classes on the right-hand side. However, there's one small difference between these two files. Can you tell what it is? And do you have a preference of one side over the other? So maybe pause the video, take a look at this, see if you can find the difference and see which of these you prefer. All right, so this is kind of a trick question here. If I were to toggle rendering the white space, you could now tell there's a difference between the two sides. So on the left-hand side here, you can see this is tabs. And on the right-hand side, you can see we have spaces. However, if I were to turn off white space again, you still can't tell the difference between the two sides. For example, over on the right, if I hit tab, you can see it inserts, well, in this case, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Whereas over on the left, if I hit tab in the same spot, you can see that only inserts one character, which is a tab character. And I could confirm that here by showing the white space again, and there you go. So if you had tooling that would understand what you want to use, tabs versus spaces, 4 spaces versus 2 spaces, maybe even 8 spaces in a crazy situation, would you really care then if that was set up for you and you had tooling that took care of it such that when you hit the tab key, you don't see any differences, you just get the tab character you need, either a single tab or 4 spaces, depending on the project, and then off to the races, you can focus on writing code. Chances are most people are not going to care as long as they don't have to dedicate a lot of mental energy to it. So for example, they don't want to have to think about, do I insert a tab character? Or in this case, I need spaces. They don't have to think about any of that because modern tooling takes care of that for them. And so if that's the case, the debate about tabs versus spaces, really that's a non-existent debate. It should be about making sure you have tooling to do things automatically for you and consistently for you. Because the one problem you'll have if you're not consistently using tabs and or spaces, if I copy some code on the right here that has spaces, paste it in here on the left where it was supposed to be tabs. And in the case of Python, an extreme case, you can see this actually breaks the code. Whereas other languages like JavaScript, it's okay to have a mixture of both. For example, here I've got tabs right here. And then up above here, I've got 2 spaces. So 2 spaces, 2 tabs, and you can see the code still works. I get my messages in the console. So obviously it's okay in this case to mix and match tabs versus spaces in the same file. However, that's typically not that fun to deal with when it comes to editing that code. And so in this case, I would strongly recommend even reformatting the file to pick one or the other. But at the end of the day, I don't really care which one it is, so long as it's consistent, which I think is the key takeaway here. At the end of the day, what really matters is consistency and having your tooling and configuration of that tooling take care of all of these burdens that we don't want to have to think about so that you can focus on what matters, which is actually what the code is doing.